Radio Chatter for another week with drumming legend Frankie Banali from the band Quiet Riot. Going to be in Detroit. We'll tell you about that coming up here in just a few minutes. We talk about what got him into music, his relationship with Carlos Cavazza and Rudy Sarzo in 2017, as well as the first time he watched the movie Spinal Tap, what legends he was watching it with and where he was, plus, of course, the Quiet Riot movie. A lot to talk about with Frankie Banali today on Radio Chatter.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff.
This is Radio Chatter with WRIF's own Meltdown.
Quiet Riot in town at the Token Lounge coming up on the 26th of January. That'd be Thursday, tomorrow, as I record this. And I had a chance to talk with Frankie Banali the other day. I got to tell you, Frankie's a really nice guy, as you'll get from this interview. I had a chance to meet him and Kevin DuBrow a few times in Buffalo, where I grew up, and also here in Detroit. It's been a long time, though. I can't believe it. Kevin DuBrow's been gone since 2007. It's been 10 years almost since we lost Kevin DuBrow. But Frankie just soldiers on. I guess he took about 3 years off and decided to do nothing. Then one day just got back on the horse and put the band back together, as they said. So, and now he's doing all sorts of stuff between, autograph sessions. And we talk about the Heavy Metal Hall of Fame thing they did. Just a lot of stuff. Frankie's a great guy. And, of course, I had to bring up, fond memories of playing right here in Detroit, and that's how we started the interview.
Yeah, we've played the Motor City Market many times, Cobo Hall, Harpo's, all of those dates. But the last time we played the Token Lounge, because I got a ridiculous memory, the last time we played it was September 13th of 2003, so nearly 14 years ago.
How do you remember that?
We played the Token Lounge.
How do you remember a specific date like that?
I've been managing the band since 1993, I keep records of everything, and I've got a really good memory, unlike some of my peers. I actually remember, most of what has happened in the last, 3+ decades. I remember that we had a record that had just come out at the time, so, we were promoting that record, even though radio wasn't playing that type of music at that point anymore. But, yeah, I remember the little details. I remember the Token Lounge, which is a great rock room, one of my favorite rock rooms to play. But it's got a great sound in that place, and I love the vibe and the environment. Yeah,
you were talking about you've been doing this for like the past 30 years and stuff. And as I was watching your documentary, not only have you guys had to fight drugs and alcohol and death and all sorts of stuff, fighting changing music. I mean, you've really lived a life in music, and talk about the different things that you had to go through in the last 30 years.
Well, it's amazing when you look back, especially at the beginning, when the mental health record came out, nobody, at least in America, nobody was doing that kind of music, and it really wasn't having any kind of an impact on the charts. So when you consider the fact that in November of 1983, when I think it was November 11th, when the mental health record went number one, the opposition, the artist that we had to climb over had nothing to do with the type of music that we were playing. We had to jump over Lionel Richie. We had to jump over Michael Jackson's Thriller, which is a ridiculous achievement. And we had to knock out the Police Synchronicity record from the number one spot to go number one. And Paul McCartney was in that top 5 or top 10 at the time. So that kind of music had nothing to do with what we were doing. So we were really the breakout artist, not just for the charts, but for the genre of music. We were the ones that started that whole movement, and really grateful that so many great bands came after us and were able to take advantage of us, putting a hole in that wall.
Yeah, before you guys, there was the Judas Priest and the Black Sabbaths and the Deep Purples and all the 70s arena and stadium acts and stuff. But yeah, you guys were the first ones to really catapult all the way up to the top of the charts. It is pretty impressive.
Yeah, like I said, we were really, really fortunate. I mean, growing up as a kid, for my generation, it all started for me with the Beatles, and that was a time when record sales were counted by gold singles, gold 45s, and for us to have a gold record, a gold 45 with "Come On Feel the Noise," to me is still amazing, and to me is still one of the most important things ever, because bands of our genre could sell records but not sell a million singles. That was unheard of at the time.
Yeah. Do you still have some of those old records framed and stuff on the walls?
I have all of them. I've kept everything. I just recently did a post because I remember in 1969 when I was still in school, and I remember seeing a picture of my favorite band, Led Zeppelin, getting their first gold records in New York with their manager in New York City, and that was like 1969, and then fast forward in 1983, I have a picture of all of us in Quiet Riot with our manager in New York City receiving our first gold record. So, I've been blessed with a lot of gold and platinum records and awards, but, that first gold record is the most important to me, and that first gold single, or the only gold single, are both, like, really important things to me.
Now, I was talking to Stephen Piercy last week, and he mentioned how he was actually in the hospital recovering from some sort of accident, and somebody gave him a guitar, and that's how he discovered music. Now, you were talking about the Beatles and stuff, but do you remember that moment when you knew that music was for you?
Yeah, I was already playing drums, but what happened is when I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, like you'll probably have heard the same story from a lot of people from
right.
my generation. That's the day that I stopped playing baseball. That's the day that I stopped playing hockey, and my whole focus and my whole momentum and everything that I wanted to do in life had to do with music and playing drums, and that was a game changer for me. And I never looked back. I always kept moving forward, from the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and all the bands from the British Invasion to then, Jimi Hendrix and Cream and ultimately Led Zeppelin and Jeff Beck and on and on. That's what I live for, and I still live for that today. There's not a day that goes by that I'm not listening to music or playing music. It's very important to me. Yeah,
no, you just, you said a little while ago, 3+ decades in this business, so I apologize if you've answered some of these questions a billion times, but when you first met Kevin DuBrow, did you guys bond over the Beatles? Because he was a big Beatles fan too, right?
How that ended up happening is, we had met a couple of times when he was playing in the Quiet Riot version with Randy Rhoads, and we had met a couple of times, but just very, very casually. But what happened is after Randy left to go play with Ozzy, and subsequently Rudy left to go play with Ozzy, Kevin was going to put his own band together, and there was an English guy in the music business that told Kevin that he should check me out. So Kevin came to hear me play in this 3-piece band that I had at a little club in the Valley in Hollywood, and he came up to me after the show, and we started talking, and we got along right away famously. And the first band he brought up, oddly enough, was he goes, "Are you familiar with this band Spooky Tooth?" And I said, "Are you kidding? Spooky Tooth, one of my favorite bands. Evil Woman is one of my favorite songs. It happened to be one of his favorite songs, which we subsequently recorded, 30 years later on the last record we did with Kevin, Rehab. Yeah. But it just took off from there because we're both such huge fans of that type of rock music, and we immediately got along. That was always, that and comedy were the two strongest bonds that Kevin and I had.
What do you mean comedy?
Kevin was a funny guy, and I tend to be a funny guy, and when you put two funny people together in the same room, something's about to happen. We shared a lot of comedy over the years.
I was going to say, I mean, you guys were around in the days of like Sam Kinison, and he had to have been around when you guys were starting out and really popping, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the Kevin and I found funny things in almost anything and everything, even catastrophe, even bad gigs. As a matter of fact, if there was a gig that wasn't going so well for whatever reason, we just found it incredibly funny. It never affected us like it affects some musicians where, they're having a bad show for whatever reason, and it just goes from bad to worse. And then with us, we just roll through it.
That's funny. It just reminded me that you guys, in your documentary, you guys talk about how you had the lead singer from the one band that was into Spinal Tap and stuff. Do you remember the first time you watched that movie?
Yeah, the first time I ever watched the movie, I had it on VHS, the medium of the time.
Right.
And we were on the Condition Critical tour, and Whitesnake were opening up for Quiet Riot. They were special guests to Quiet Riot. And that particular evening that I was watching it, it was in the back of the back lounge of the bus. And David Coverdale is sitting on one side, and Kevin is sitting on the other side. I'm actually sitting on the floor in between the two of them, and I remember we're drinking Bass Ale, and I am just crying. I'm laughing so hard, and then I come to the realization that I'm the only one in the back lounge of the bus as we're rolling down highway whatever that's laughing. And so I turn around and look at the two of them, and they both have their arms crosses, and they both have this really stark look on their faces. So they saw Spinal Tap as an assault on their sensibilities, and I saw it as what it can really be like out on the road. So we had different perspectives on it. They did not enjoy it, but we continued drinking.
I think I saw that movie for the first time. I was 13 or 14, and I'll just put it this way. When you guys were popping, I was 13 or 14, and I can remember you guys. I was just a kid discovering music. I heard Ozzy Crazy Train for the first time in 82 or 83, whatever it was, and I was like, okay, this is the direction I'm going in. But anyways, the first time I saw that movie, I didn't really get it, but now I've been in this business for 27 years, and it's pretty clear.
Yeah, once you've lived it, and to me it was funny because I saw so many similarities. That whole thing of trying to find the stage and you keep going the wrong way constantly. That actually happened. That actually happened to us, and the whole thing with the pod not opening up. The first date of the Condition Critical tour, we had so many. We were carrying our own production. We were now the headliner, and huge set, huge production, all these different level tiers on the stage, and things were just going wrong in the most hysterical way. So I was laughing at it, but other people didn't quite find the humor in our industry, which I do. Yeah, it's good that you found it amusing because they went through all sorts of drummers, Oh yeah. To this day, I keep expecting one day to implode on stage. I don't know if the day will ever come, but I'm prepared for it.
Yeah. Hey, talk about the DVD. What a fantastic DVD. There's been some really good ones that have come out lately. The Twisted Sister one I saw, your DVD. First of all, talk about the production and making that. Did you have I'm assuming you had a big hand in that.
I actually, by my own choice, didn't do that. When director Regina Russell, came up with the idea, she had found out from me that I was going to put the band back together, and she thought they would make a great film, and especially with the long history of the band and the continuing history of the band. I opened up my archives to her, but after the first 30 days of so we're filming, I just stopped watching dailies, and I just said to her, listen, here's the deal. You make the movie, and I'm going to continue bailing the water out of the SS Quiet Riot and just stay out of my way. You can film whatever you want, but I didn't exercise any veto or editing powers because I think that for the film to be real, you had to put things in that maybe I'm uncomfortable with. Otherwise, it just becomes some glorified behind the music, which the Quiet Riot movie is not. And she did a phenomenal job because it's a daunting task to have to sit there and wade through 30 years worth of material. Recordings, video, photos, and put it together in a cohesive way, and then continue it in real time. And it turned out great. And the bonus part about it is, though, that the DVD is now available at QuietRiotMovie.com, and that has over an hour's worth of bonus features because on the theatrical theatrical release, you're bound by a certain time limit. So all the stuff that needed to be added to the film is in the DVD.
Now, tell me about the first time you sat down and watched it. Were you with other people, or did you decide to take it in by yourself, or what happened?
I watched it. I watched it just myself and Regina, and it was interesting. It was therapeutic. There were so many things that I remember, but you remember it, but seeing it actually on screen because of the home movies and all those things. I laughed a lot at certain points. It was very difficult for me to watch and very emotional for me to watch. There's certain things in the film that I did that make me cringe, but I stand behind it, and it's fascinating to watch such a huge chunk of my personal and professional life right there in front. Not too many people get to experience that, and I'm grateful for the film, and I'm grateful for Regina doing such a great job, because it took Quiet Riot and put it in people's homes in a way that they had never seen the band before. They're familiar with the band as being the mental health band and Come On Feel the Noise and Bang Your Head and all of that, but I don't think they were aware of what it takes to put a band together, what it takes to keep a band together, and how many people are part of the fabric of a band.
And what it takes to pull a band apart, I suppose, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Listen, there were parts of our history, especially my personal history with Kevin, where we had to part company, and there were reasons for it, and they're documented in the film. But I'm just really grateful that Kevin and my friendship was so strong that it survived things that a lot of friendships in this industry do not survive.
Yeah, it's wild that you say, you get to see your whole career unfold in front of you like that an hour and a half. Most people don't get to do that. Of course, if you're going to work at the car dealership or building cars or whatever, that's pretty that's kind of intense, actually.
It's, like I said, there's. I have no regrets about the film whatsoever, and again, it's just really interesting to sit there and watch it as third party, because I remember it and I remember the experiences, but remembering is one thing. Seeing it there in color is another thing altogether on the big screen. Has
there been other documentaries from other bands that you've watched and liked?
The documentaries that I've watched, by and large, have been things like on the Beatles and Cream and Hendrix and things like that. I had never watched a documentary on our particular era and our particular genre, so I had no basis to base anything or have any opinions about our documentary, because everything that I watched was stemmed in things that predated us by at least 10 to 20 years.
And how did you get all the footage and everything? Did you actually put anything out on the internet or something? If you had old footage of Quiet Riot or whatever you might use in a documentary, did you try to get people involved in it?
Well, I saved just about everything I could get my hands on, original slides from photo sessions, all the magazine clippings, lots of live video footage and recordings, home movies, and all of that. But there were certain instances where the internet was really, really helpful in finding things, especially little bits that we used for real time, and the fans were really great and real cooperative and happy to have been a small part of it.
Yeah, it seems pretty cool. Like that video, the documentary for Anvil was pretty interesting. It's like those guys are pretty much unknown down here, but they've fought the rock and roll battles for years as well. So it's kind of cool to see some of these bands get the light of day.
Well, and you got to give them credit, because they played a number of really, really big festivals, and they were really an over the top band. But I think in their case is an example of how difficult it is in this industry if you don't have hits, if you don't have marquee value. It's really, really difficult to sustain a career. It's the music industry is not a career for everyone. It is very difficult. If you're thin-skinned, don't go into it. If you can't handle criticism, don't go into it. And if you expect rewards and no disappointments, man, go to Home Depot and get a job.
So you go out and you tour here in 2017 and stuff. And what kind of stuff do the fans like to talk to you about when you're out on the road?
runs the gamut because I run into, diehard fans that have seen us, time and time again, and you have to, search the memory banks. Oh, yeah, I remember that date or something that happened that particular date. The other rewarding aspect of it is that I'm seeing fans out there that clearly were not even born when the mental health record came out, and they're equally as enthusiastic about the band as the diehard longtime fans are. And when I'm sitting there behind the drums, I've got the best seat in the house, and I'm watching an older fan, and I'm watching a much younger fan, and they're both singing the lyrics to songs, and not just the hits, but I mean even some of the deep tracks. That's when you've made an impact in some manner into a lot of people's lives, and those lives have impacted mine and the career of Quiet Riot. So I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah, that's cool, man. It's got to be thrilling to cross the country after all these years and still be able to see people come out and admire your band and check out your band.
Listen, it means the world to me. The reality is, and I don't think, most people or most musicians won't admit it, but the reality is that without the fans, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. So I'm forever grateful for 3 decades of being able to do what I do with Quiet Riot.
Now, here in 2017, of course, it's a much different time than the heyday of Quiet Riot. What's your goals for 2017? Do you ever plan anything for the year, or do you guys just go out and start touring and see where it takes you?
Well, we've got a new record coming out. This will be the first new record of all new songs, newly recorded material that we've done since 2006. That's the last time we released an official Quiet Riot record, and that's coming out early spring on Frontiers Records. So I'm really excited about that, and it's got the current lineup is on that record, and we continue to tour. I'm concentrating on hitting as many cities, be large cities or small cities as I can this year, as well as continuing to make headway in European markets. So I'm just, like I said, this is what I do. This is what I love to do. When it comes to the business of it, I'm very serious about it. But from the time I get to an event for sound check, and especially from the time I put the stage clothes on to the time I take them off in the hotel room, it's all about the music, nothing else. I don't think about business. I don't think about family. I don't think about anything except the music and the fans. And for me, that's what keeps me going.
Now, you talked about family there for just a second. So you have a daughter, right?
Yes, I do.
And how old is she now?
She's now 19.
Okay, so she wasn't really around. Well, she obviously wasn't around in the heyday, but what is her perspective when she looks back on your career and stuff you've done?
It's kind of like a wow moment, It's kind of like she's looking at somebody else because she's used to the dad that was taking her to school, or the dad that takes her to the mall, or the dad that helps her get groceries. That's with my hair tied back in a ponytail or wearing a hat or something, and then she sees this other individual which she recognizes, but it's almost a whole different character.
Yeah, one of my funniest moments last year in doing interviews was when Neil from Clutch told me his 6-year-old could care less about him on stage. He was like, all he cared about was the lights, and then he said he called him the world's worst pitcher. So, kids will bring you down to their level sometimes. But it's funny you mentioned you save all the stuff, because I have a room in my house that it's my rock room, and like I said, I've been doing this for 27 years. And about 2 years into my career, I decided, I'm going to start taking pictures. I mean, this is before Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. I'm going to start taking pictures with all these people I meet, because someday my kids are going to think I am the biggest loser walking the planet. And I'm going to say, look, I got to meet and hang out with all these great people, And it's cool that you save stuff like that. Do you have a big room yourself, with all your records and stuff on the wall?
Yeah. I mean, it's essentially, I don't keep it in the rooms when you first come to the house. That's right. Not the first thing you see. It's more towards the back of the house. I'm really proud of it. I never thought when I started playing that I would get one single award. Certainly, I didn't think I was going to get a gold or a platinum record. And by the grace of the fans, I've been very fortunate to have many gold records and platinum records and awards and all of that, and they're all still important to me. I never became, jaded or bitter by some of the disappointments in the industry. I'm very grateful for all the accomplishments, and I'm very grateful for the people I accomplished it with, and I'm very grateful to the fans who ultimately made all that possible. So I never take it for granted, but I also don't sit there and marvel at the wall and say, my, aren't I important?
Well, that's funny because I do.
Well, you should.
No, I'm just kidding. Hey, speaking of guys that you've played with in the past, I see Carlos Cavasso is with Rat now, and I just had, like I said, Stephen Piercy on last week. What's your relationship like with him? Do you talk to Carlos up here and there?
No, I'm really, really close to Rudy. Rudy and I, our history predates the recording of the Mental Health record, which we recorded in '82, came out in '83. Rudy and I met and were playing together in 1972.
Wow.
So we still have this incredible friendship and relationship. Rudy hasn't been in the band in 13 years, yet that has not affected or colored our relationship. As a matter of fact, we both, not this past weekend, but the weekend before, we both did an autograph convention together in Albuquerque. Then 3 days later, we both received awards when we were both individually and for Quiet Riot inducted into the Heavy Metal Hall of History.
Yeah, that's right. That's cool.
Yeah, and then just this past Saturday, he and I played 2 songs together for the Ronnie Montrose Remembered concert. So we get along great, and it's wonderful. Carlos, I think he's a phenomenal guitarist. I think he is much better than a lot of people give him credit for. And I think Rat are incredibly fortunate to have him because he's a brilliant guitarist. Carlos and I were never close. We were never enemies or anything like that, but we were never close when we were in Quiet Riot during the heyday. He had different interests than I. He had a different group of friends that he hung out with than I did. I mostly hung out with Kevin. So it wasn't a negative thing, but it wasn't a close relationship. It was more like we were in the same band together. But I have nothing but good to say about Carlos, and I wish him absolutely nothing but the best.
Yeah. I got a couple more minutes here, but talk a little bit about that heavy metal thing that you were talking about, because I know they awarded a lot of. Now, all right, let me back up. What is this thing, first of all?
Well, it was put together. This is the first year that they're having this awards, and it's going to continue every year. And it's essentially the committee that got together and put this award together did it because they understand that our genre of music, and especially heavy metal, is not particularly favored and recognized by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Right.
So. And to that end, this first year, the inductees, the list is phenomenal. I am so incredibly proud and flattered to have been included in induction ceremonies for Ronnie James Dio, for Lemmy, for Don Airey, who a lot of people don't know, but he's the keyboard player in most of the records of the genre you like, with Ozzy,
sure, yeah,
on and on. The Rainbow Bar and Grill, because without the Rainbow Bar and Grill, there would not be a rock and roll home for musicians. They were also inducted. Rudy was inducted for his work with so many of the bands, Whitesnake, obviously Quiet Riot, Whitesnake, Dio, so on and so forth. So he was inducted individually for that. I was inducted individually for the work that I've done, and then we were both received a separate induction for Quiet Riot. So it's just a way, I think, for this award ceremony and the committee to say thank you to musicians that are sometimes not thanked by the industry at large. Certainly not the Grammys, and certainly not the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah, I've been to the Grammys a few times, and you got that right. What would you do if the Hall of Fame called it Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and said we're going to put Quiet Riot in? That'd have to be like the pinnacle of everything, right?
I would accept it gratefully. I would be very, very happy to be included with so many of the bands that I love that have been inducted. Deep Purple, yes, Led Zeppelin, obviously, Aerosmith, all those bands. That would be great. Am I sitting here at home waiting for the phone to ring, for that phone call to come in? Absolutely not.
Right.
I'd be surprised if it even happened after I'm long gone. So. So, again, I don't sit around waiting for the awards and waiting for the accolades. They happen when they happen, and if they don't, they don't. I've still been very, very, very fortunate, and I'm still very, very grateful, whether the phone rings or it doesn't.
Well, you just talked about this. You're going to be headlining the 45th anniversary of the Rainbow coming up in April, eh?
That is correct. Yeah, that is correct. It's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, when I was a starving musician in Hollywood, living in West Hollywood, I got a lot of free meals from Tony and Micheal, both who were no longer there. But that was, I could come in the back door and sit down in the kitchen and have a meal and a glass of wine on the house, and it was great. They supported me when I was nobody, and they supported me when I became someone. So,
well, Frankie, I got to thank you so much for the time, and thank you for being so good to me. I know you got a great memory, but I'm sure you don't remember a short little rock and roll DJ from Buffalo, now in Detroit. But anyways, I've met you and Kevin a few times in the past. You guys have always been really nice, and I appreciate that. Thursday at the Token Lounge, it's Quiet Riot, and we'll look forward to seeing you out here in the Motor City. And safe travels, and thank you again for the time.
Thank you so much for the time and the support, and I hope you can make it down to the show. I'll buy you a beer or two for free.
Hey, now you're talking. All right, there we go.
All right.
A wise man once said, never turn down a drink. Yes, indeed. Frankie Banali from Quiet Riot in town January 26th at the Token Lounge. If you're listening to this out of town or after the 26th of January, I hope that you at least took something away from this. Frankie's a great guy, awesome to talk to, loves talking about the heyday Quiet Riot, and now just, doing up the club thing and making a living and happy doing it. Still holding on to that interview I did before Christmas that I can't air until after the Grammys. Let's just say that. Mid-February, so keep checking back. I've got some other irons in the fire as well for some other interviews coming up. In the meantime, hit me up on social media. All of my social media sites, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all Meltdown WRIF. So please, by all means, share, hit me up, follow, do that whole thing, rate this, star this. I don't know. Thanks so much for listening. We'll do it all over again real soon.